r/NoSleep. Posted by u/CrimsonBayonet. I worked as a custodian for a 24/7 with strange rules and I was just promoted. Part 2. Hello. Andre here, and I know I left off on deciding if I wanted to go back or not after all the events that happened. I contemplated many things. Just quitting, calling the police, and even returning. To be honest, I didn't want to call the police because I fear they will just laugh at me and call me insane. Well, after thinking it over and weighing my options, I decided to go back. I know. Bad idea. But I needed the money and they are willing to pay me to triple my actual hourly wage, which, well, let's just say I am kinda tired of eating ramen every night. Anyways, I showed up to work not knowing what to expect. As I walked through the doors, the manager was there waiting as if he knew I was coming back, as he had a big shit-eating smile. He was wearing a red velvet suit and a purple tie. He pulled me to his office and wanted to speak to me. "Shaman, so you decided to come back, eh, Andre?" Me: "Well, the money was the main factor and it's either this or die of starvation." "Shaman, well, we are short-staffed, so I am glad you decided to come back. Also, I always hold up on my side of the bargain. Welcome to becoming assistant manager since the last one was let go." I sat there shaking, knowing that he was talking about Cynthia. I've known her for such a short time, but she was really sweet and caring. I keep thinking about how she was killed and how it was pretty much my inaction that caused it. But what was I supposed to do? "Shaman, I know what you're thinking. Am I going to end up like her? Well, no worries, I'm sure you'll do just fine." He smiles, a wicked smile that sent shivers down my spine. "Shaman, as the new assistant manager, we need to go over a few rules like the last time, but a little different." Me: "I still know the old ones. Is there something different I need to know?" He proceeded to go over the old rules. 1. When it becomes 03:00, you must close down all the bathrooms until 04:00. 2. When cleaning out the theater, the light has to be on and you must finish before the screen turns black. 3. If a man without a face walks in, you are not to speak to him for any reason. 4. All of the staff must enter the lobby at 03:30 and stay there until 04:00. 5. If you see someone talking to a man without a face, do not attempt to stop them and look away. 6. Do not attempt to film or record anything that goes on here. Shaman, since you know the old rules, here are the ones important to your job, which is to train new hires and keep the peace when I am away. So the next 3 rules are imperative to your job here." He then slipped me a thin slip of paper that was folded. He explained not to open this until 06:00 or the last hour of work. "Shaman, this is very important. If anything, not opening this until 06:00 is the most important of all the rules. I need you to agree with the rules. Let's just shake on it." He held his hand out with the same crazy and uneasy grin. I accepted his deal reluctantly and shook his hand. Oddly enough, the moment I shook his hand, a wave of euphoria passed through my body, as if this was a good thing for me somehow, but the uneasy feeling became increasingly more difficult to shake off. He said he was excited to see what I can do and then escorts me out of the office. It was time. The clock struck 2300 and I clocked into work. It was normal at first. Many people came in and came out, nothing out of the ordinary. A few hours go by and after my first break it was 02:45 and I decided to start closing the bathrooms down. I went in and asked if anyone was in either bathroom and I heard nothing. So I walked in to knock on each stall to double check. After each check, I heard nothing, even standing back to peep onto the gap to look for feet. But there was nothing, so I decided to head out. However, before I could get out, the door locked shut and I was stuck in the bathroom at 03:00. I ran to a stall and locked it, hoping nothing would happen. Sitting there, I was holding my breath when the lights in the bathroom began to flicker with about a half-second pause between each flash. I kept quiet, but I could hear this large creature with its joint popping and creak like old wood. I could hear its raspy breath as it wheezed and moaned. The thing slammed open each stall and stopped at mine, where she looked over the top of the stall with a wicked smile in those bright white eyes. She flung the door open, nearly ripping it off its hinges, and it stared at me, smiling with its razor-sharp teeth and a smile that was ear to ear. I tried to pray, but before I could let out a word it reached for me. I recoiled in fear as this thing was about to take my life. I covered my eyes, not wanting to see what it was going to do. I was there for what felt like an eternity and decided to open my eyes, and there she was, holding out a human finger in her palm. She spoke no words but wanted to give it to me. Something came over me in that instant and I reached for it and said thank you to the beast. She smiled and went to sit in the corner of the bathroom, still smiling at me. I didn't know what to do, so I just sat down next to her. She smelled of roses and iron. Still strange, she never attacked me despite what Cynthia said. I gained the courage to speak to her. "So, what is this place? Why do you eat people? I kept staring at the finger waiting for her response. She didn't speak, but her face dropped from a smile to a slight grin. I asked one last thing. Why didn't you kill me? She looked at me with the same grin and finally spoke. The regulars are not allowed to harm other regulars. After she stood up and nodded at me and opened the door. I looked at the time and it was 0400. I stood up and dusted myself off and walked out. Looking down the hall, I noticed our other regular was walking in, the man with no facial features. He did his regular and walked to the counter and out 5 human fingers made of gold and placed it on the counter. He got his movie ticket and was walking down the hall when he bumped into another member of the staff who wasn't paying attention. "Oh, sorry sir," the staff member said while texting on his phone and not knowing who he'd just encountered. Instantly and without warning, the creature grabbed the boy's head and crushed it between his fingers, sending brain matter and blood all over the wall. It then lifted the corpse into the air before opening its head split open, revealing a massive maw. The staff member was then swallowed whole, and afterward, the creature kept walking as if nothing happened. The other staff was trying to hide after knowing they could be next, however I was staring at the creature. Blood and sinew slowly dripped down its featureless face. The creature smelled of rancid flesh and cheap cologne. I think the thing could feel me looking at it and it slowly turned to look at me. This exchange only lasted a few seconds, but it felt like hours passed by as this thing stared at me. It even felt as if this thing was fetishizing my soul. Something was more than evil about this being. Some kind of primal fear was welling up and my entire body was shivering to tell me to look away and run, but I had to keep looking. I felt if I looked away it would attack. After a few seconds, the creature just turned around and headed toward a picture on a wall which opened when it approached. The painting seemed to vanish and a bright white light shined where the opening was. Then the creature walked in yet paused to look back at me. It smiled. "What do you want?" I exclaimed in fear with an underline of anger and anxiety. Immediately after asking, I felt rage coming from the creature. It closed the gap between me instantly and it was face to face with me. It started to bend over whilst its body was cracking and snapping. There I was facing this thing, I too. No, I? Anyways, I too, and I can sense I was going to die. However, it simply walked away. Nothing happened other than it trying to intimidate me. I thought how odd this was since the last person was swallowed whole by the creature, but I was left mostly unscathed. Other staff were looking at me as if I was crazy, and to be honest, I felt like I was by tempting a creature that was able to swallow someone whole. I had to take a break after that, so I went outside and grabbed a cigarette. I didn't smoke. Well, I used to, but I recently quit, but having one between my fingers seems to help me calm down. Remembering all that has been going on today has been taxing to my mind. It all seems impossible since the police should be here and investigating, but how is it possible that they haven't been able to? I was so distracted by the thought that I lost track of time. I looked at my watch and the time read 0545 and the last show for the next 2 hours was finishing. I tucked the cancer stick back into its box in my pocket. Walking toward the room, I see customers shuffling out of the room, all whispering about how great the new movie Morbius was. I went into the room with 2 other entry-level custodians. They both were working quickly and I decided to help. The end credits were all done. The screen was about to fade to black when the lights started shutting off. I quickly pushed the kids out while yelling at them to run. They passed the threshold and the doors slammed shut, locking me in. I looked back at the screen to see the mass of human flesh and tumors crawling out. It had Cynthia's face. And started to gurgle blood, but slowly started to talk to me. "Why did you leave me?" the creature asked. I couldn't speak or move since I was frozen with fear. In an instant, the creature was above me and surrounding me. The cries of all the people in the body were filling the air along with the stench of death and rot. It barred down on me, dripping liquid flesh on my body. Chunks of viscera and clotted blood were dripping on me. I started to gag as the creature kept getting closer and closer until the lights turned on. It scurried into the screen crying and screaming as if it was being burned alive. I stood up and brushed off the chunks of meat. They started to evaporate in the air as they touched the ground. Still filled with fear, I was shaken up. I left the theater to the front again. Shaking and stirring, I pulled the cigarette out again. I looked up at the sky and took a deep breath. I noticed the time was 0600, so I reached into my pocket and grabbed the note. If there was a rule I'd actually follow, it would be this one. The note read as followed. "Thank you for accepting the new position. As you may have guessed, this theater is different, to say the least. The things you have survived have led you to this point. You are important and the narrative you hold cannot be destroyed. Yes, Andre, you are special. I cannot tell quite yet who or what you are, but something about you is different from the regulars and humans. This doesn't mean you are immortal or cannot be harmed. They are ancient beings older than I who come here every day. I can't wait to see what unfurls next. See you soon. It was signed by Shaman, but it was a different name was written. It was Diamanicus. The rest of the day went by quickly and without any real incidents. When Shaman came in as I was clocking out, he just waved and wished me a good morning. I am sitting here on my bed with my laptop. I don't know what to think of this. I can't tell if I should go back and find out what I am or what is Diamaniku's plan with me. Any help is appreciated, but as for now, I need some sleep. Stay safe out there, people. Andre of Anglos.